This is The Boys podcast from TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about The Boys Season 2, Episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off.
Point is, I learned everything I know from those girls.
The Golden Girls.
I was alone in New York, you know? Turning tricks, begging for the scraps. Who you think kept me company? The Golden Girls. 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. They lit up their shelter shitty TV.
And you're not talking about porn. The Golden Shower Girls.
It's disrespectful.
Oh, you're so sensitive.
Yo, those saucy ladies, they made their own family. So I did what they did. You are my Blanche. And Jay, you are my Dorothy.
Guess you're a little gay. Yeah.
So you're Betty White.
Of course I'm Betty White. Now, who wants to rob a bank?
Welcome back, fellow boys and girls. This is Darick, one of your hosts of TV Podcast Industries, and we're here for The Boys podcast, talking about The Boys Season 2, Episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off.
Hello there, fellow boys and girls, or should I say saucy ladies and gents. I am one of your other hosts, John.
And rounding out this saucy trio of door-blowing, door-opening... I don't know where I was going with this opening. I am Chris.
Door handle turning people, maybe?
Yeah, that guy. But that's kind of a... If anything, it's like door blowing, kicking in, kicking
Right.
down. I don't know.
I have never blown a door off or kicked a door in, to be honest. So, yeah, maybe not me.
I once tried to shoulder my way in through a locked door. The door won. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty sure I was more bruised than the door was damaged.
Love it.
Yes, kind of the law of entropy. I put enough force into it, it forced back.
Nice.
But outside of my indiscretions with doors, and especially locked doors, guys, what did we think? We're in, like 6 episodes in. We're down to 2 left.
Yeah.
This episode was lit, for sure. Quote Ashley.
Down with the kids.
Yeah, quote Ashley.
It was dope, wasn't it?
It really was. I loved this episode.
Yeah, no, this is great. The irony of having poor Ashy as a flame-powered soup, when in theory, like, he's either been a kind of ice-powered soup or a flame-powered soup. He's nothing in between. He's always going to be element. Like, why not just give him something slightly different? But no, fire ice, that's it. Hot or cold.
Yeah, great to see Sean Ashmore in here, wasn't it? Really cool to see him in here. I know he plays Iceman, as you were mentioning, in the X-Men movies. He's back here with another very X-Men-like superpower in here. Do you know, we actually sat across the table from him at a press room at New York Comic Con.
We did.
6 years ago, I think, next week. We were there for Gotham doing a roundtable interview with all the cast, and they went off to their panel, which we had to be at, because that's why we'd flown to New York for the comic convention. And the team brought out Sean Ashmore for the show that he was on at the time, asked us to interview him. And we were sitting there going, no, we're here for Gotham. We're supposed to be downstairs at the panel. We waited for everybody to politely ask their questions. Questions ran out quite quickly because the show that he was on hadn't premiered at the time. So he kind of just sat there staring at us, wondering why 2 of us were at the table not asking any questions at all. And then we ducked out of the room and ran downstairs to the Gotham panel.
Harsh.
So we looked really bad, like.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're not getting the interview with Lamplighter. Just now we know.
Absolutely not.
Good.
No, not at all. But
That's
sure.
why we rebranded to TV Podcast Industries from Gotham TV Podcast.
But Lamplighter's a really, like, bad soup, and he's pretty, like, lame, because he's a baton twirling majorette.
I love that everybody laughs at his costume in this episode. Anyway, this is a completely spoiler-filled episode. We've already spoiled a few things before saying that, as we always seem to forget at the beginning of our episodes to say that. We do hope you subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't, you can pop on over to tvpodcastindustries.com. Subscribe to us over there. You can also leave a voicemail for us on any of the episodes or our podcast. Just touch the button on the side and leave up to 90 seconds of your thoughts about any of the episodes or the podcast. I did mention a few weeks ago where we are in chart positions. We were at number 53 in the charts of all after shows in the US, and Chris put out a little appeal to try and break that top 50. We're now number 34 of all of the after shows.
Wow.
All the TV after shows in the US. So we are in top 40, I guess, top 35. Let's do that. So thank you so much to everybody that's tuning in for The Boys. It's been very successful for us.
Absolutely. And we're also creeping up on our other podcast as well, with Lovecraft Country. Yeah. We're up to 51.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
So yeah, thanks
See, if
guys
you had me
and
for
gals.
Lovecraft, we'd be in the top 50. I'm just putting that out there. The missing je ne sais quoi, the secret sauce to break that top 50 is me.
All right, Lamplighter.
But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate you. You have all heard, you answered the call. I am so happy. Let's go 25. Next, top 10. Next, top 5. On all seriousness, yes, thank you so much. We appreciate you listening, everything. We appreciate you sharing with your granny, sharing it with your family, because sharing the podcast is sharing the love. But of course, if you do want to support us in other ways, you can head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries by dropping us $1, €1, £1, whatever you can afford. We understand that this is a hard time for many people, so whatever. If you can't, just remember listening is as great. Mm-hmm. Thank you to our new patrons as well who have joined us over the last month, and while our coverage of The Boys, we appreciate you too.
Absolutely, yes. We'll be giving our monthly shout out to our new patrons at the beginning of October, which should coincide with the finale of The Boys Season 2. But lads, let's get into our discussion about The Boys Season 2, Episode 6. The episode was written by Anslem Richardson. It's first episode of The Boys that he's written. He has written a few other shows, including 3 episodes of the show Timeless, and he used to be an actor who appeared as a cop in Amazing Spider-Man 2. Nice little claim to fame there, wasn't it?
Yeah, cool.
Timeless was one it's sitting on Netflix. Mm-hmm. It's in my list. It's one I'm like, I know I'm going to enjoy this. There's 3 good seasons there, apparently, and it's just one of those, when I have time, but there's it's like, do I do that, or as I'm doing now, going through all of New Girl from the beginning, because it's turn your brain off TV.
Right, yeah. There's this thing that they were saying that during COVID, during lockdown, that people were much more likely to go back to shows they've watched before. Not even shows they've missed, shows they've watched before, to watch them again, because since the entire world is a nightmare and you don't know what's going to happen next, at least you have the security to watch something that you've seen before because you know how it ends, basically.
Well, exactly. So, and we've got GBBO, Great British Bake Off, back this evening as well on season 125 or whatever it is. It's going to be like the crew of the Nostromo with the alien virus, as they're all in kind of a bubble. So at some point there'll be cake mix and bread dough flying everywhere as it begins to attack, no doubt, in this COVID
really
bubble.
I want to see the alien egg bake-off, where it's like, okay, this week's challenge is we're going to use an egg. Now we want you to put something exposing from the egg. Oh no, it's COVID!
I know. I think at one point I was staring at sort of cookery recipes in video that kept popping up in Facebook, and it was just like this iterative loop that the more I watched, the more that were getting into my feed, and I was like, I feel now I'm like a head chef somewhere because I know so many tricks of the trade.
But are you applying them? That is the question.
No.
Well, if all I needed to do was watch a few videos on YouTube to become an experienced at anything, I would be pretty experienced at quite a lot of things, especially movie making, because I watch a lot of movie making stuff on YouTube. But let's get back to the episode itself. As I said, written by Anslem Richardson. This episode is directed by Sarah Boyd. Sarah directed an excellent episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 6, Episode 9, Part 2 of Collision Course, if you guys remember it. A really good episode.
Yes.
We also spoke about her quite recently in terms of our podcast, because it's been going on for 6 years. Reasonably recently, we spoke about her episode of Jessica Jones. She did the penultimate ever episode of Jessica Jones, season 3, episode 12, aka A Lot of Worms. And I know I remember how that episode ended, and it was directed so well. So delighted to have Sarah over here on The Boys.
Yeah, definitely. She is a great at framing for character monologues or backstory bits. So if I'm remembering the scenes correctly from that penultimate episode, yeah, there's definitely a few things. There's a signature style, if you will, of some certain parts.
Yeah, definitely some good stuff. But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for this episode?
Sure. Homelander and Stormfront continue their budding romance from alley to alley across the city as they fight crime. But despite all this alley love, Homelander realizes she's keeping secrets from him. Meanwhile, the boys are joined by Starlight as they follow up on her Sage Grove lead. Infiltrating the psychiatric hospital, they find one of Vaught's darkest secrets: adult test subjects for Compound V. The arrival of Stormfront at the facility spurs them to make their escape, but in doing so, Mothers Milk and Frenchie run into a familiar face from their past, Lamplighter. In the ensuing encounter between them, the Vought test subject Cindy is released from her cell, who then frees her fellow inmates with her mind. As the test subjects riot using their powers, one seriously injures Huey, while another called Love Sausage reaches around Mother Milk. Meanwhile, the Deep introduces a train to the Church of the Collective. Queen Maeve has some difficult decisions to make, and Stormfront tells Homelander all her secrets as their relationship deepens and becomes decidedly far right-wing.
Yes, definitely right-wing.
It really was.
Yeah. We are a family-friendly podcast, even though the show is not family-friendly. So well done, John, for avoiding all the things I would normally have to edit out of your synopsis.
Just a bit.
Congratulations. Applause.
Budding romance. There was something around his neck. Well, touche. Well done.
Yes, it was extremely hard to do.
Excellent. Guys, let's get into our top points about the episode. We normally talk about them from the protagonist point of view, the antagonist point of view, and any other moments from the episode. So our protagonist moment, our boys moment from the episode. Chris, you're going to kick us off.
Oui. Yes, I think it is a bit of a time for some French history.
Or Indian history, apparently.
Yes, we are in history, we are in French history, we go get a baguette, some smelly cheese, and we sit by the Eiffel Tower, as I give you the background, if you will, of wee little Frenchie.
Okay.
I want to do some French history, and by French history, I mean we got a very poignant, heartbreaking in certain parts, backstory to parts of Frenchie. Yeah. In terms of they shot back the 8 years initially in a flashback. We don't see his full history. It is explained in as you heard in the opening of our episode in the snippet. We do get that scene between himself, Cherie, and the third wheel, if you will. We get his backstory, how he had been on the streets ever since he's come to the States. How the Golden Girls have helped him kind of go through. He learned English from it. It helped deal with the activities he was doing at night to get through. And this, as he learned, applied his craft. And then so we get that quite nice scene where he even he makes a piece of bomb material, explosive material, to which we think was to. I thought when I kind of see this part was he's gonna blow open the doors of a safe.
Yeah.
Fast forward, we see him in a jail cell, and we get this great introduction to him and Mallory. How Mallory wants him to kind of recruits him to the boys for the special black ops. And that bomb was knockout gas to deal with a soup.
Yeah.
So, in season 1, in Chris's Corner, I kind of gave the comic book version of kind of Frenchie's history, and I've already discussed how I like how they're updating for kind of for the 2000s, the histories of these characters and translating them to TV as well. Because we've called it out a few times previously. The Boys was written for a certain era, for a certain comic book style. It was ultra gory, stupid in other points, hypersexualized. Like, it was just everything. Yeah. This is a more grounded, realistic kind of interpretation. So he unfortunately had to prostitute himself. They have a drug addiction. But you see his chemistry skills as it looks like he's mixing kind of narcotics there in his apartment as well, not just being a drug dealer. And it all leads to, I was like, okay, so we get that, and that's how he joined the Boys. Yeah. I thought, like, that was it.
Yeah, I was very impressed with that. That's kind of like bringing in the special skill before he even got to the Boys. It's not like he joined the group and then they taught him these skills. He had them beforehand. I think that's really cool. And the way that that Mallory's explaining, it's not just this particular incident. There were also other incidents before where they can track it back to Frenchie's specific talents. And those talents would work really well with the Boys. Like, then that's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And when you think back to season 1, you see and think of how he was able to deal with translucent. Like, he knew about the skin type and, like, okay, it would have to be inside and all these types of things. It plays back even more to that. So what do you guys think, John?
Yeah, no, I loved this backstory of Frenchie, and I really liked how it connected in to different parts of the current story, especially with Lamplighter at Sage Grove, and really with Mallory as well, because I found that the really nice part of Frenchie's backstory. I love that moment where he connects with Lamplighter, and then Lamplighter's brought to Mallory. Just how you see this backstory of him trying to help a friend who's overdosing, and then that leads to Lamplighter killing Mallory's children. Yeah, because Frenchie wasn't there to stop him effectively. He lost his tail. But also then how that then comes back to, you know, that revelation, that moment of revelation for Frenchie, and how it helps with him and Kimiko as well. So I thought that was really nicely done by this episode, and the writers, just how they connected it in with what was happening in the present, plus in Frenchie's backstory. And it effectively is kind of moment of redemption a bit with Kimiko. Yeah. And I didn't realize how, like, Mallory was so kind of angry with him as well. That was a really sort of unexpected touch for me.
Yeah, that was really, really good. I think my favorite connection to the current scenes and the past was when Billy goes, "Make sure you don't get caught, Frenchie," and Frenchie goes, "I never get caught," and it cuts back to him getting caught. that's a real old school flashback right there. I really liked it.
For me, this was so we had lingering questions of why there was this malice between Mother's Milk and Frenchie, which was never really explained.
No, it was absolutely never explained. Yeah, I love it. That was the first moment you see Mother's Milk on screen, is when Billy's trying to get him to come back and join the Boys in season 1, episode 1, and he goes, "If Frenchie's there, I'm not." You know, that's effectively their entire relationship, which I love that it's taken to this point to explain why, and now you kind of go, I now know absolutely why.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. And they like, even to the scene where we're introduced to, like, in the warehouse, like, where we see Mother's Milk with his ring. He's going to propose to his wife, and you see that, like, how close him and Frenchie were. Absolutely, like, that Frenchie was probably, they don't explicitly say best man, but he's like, "I'm going to throw you a bachelor party. We're going to do this." Yeah, I always hate when they do, and our listeners who have been here for a while know that I really do hate really badly done kind of flashback, like, episodes. This wasn't it. Like, this was well written. It was, as John said, like, it was weaved so well into the storyline. But then they took jab at those bad kind of flashback scenes, going, "I never get caught," and then show him, like, but it wasn't in a bad way. Yeah, like, it was done so cleverly.
Yeah, I've mentioned before, I'm a big fan of Lost. I loved how they incorporated flashbacks into that show, but they did do those clunky transitions occasionally, especially when you're getting into like season 4 of the show and they're going, we have to do another flashback with Jack. We've already done 16 of those. How are we going to lead into this one? So I think that's the reference that they're doing there. Is just a little bit of a clunky transition. But I absolutely love that this kind of finishes the animosity between Mother's Milk and Frenchie here, and now has solidified the two of them as friends again, because we get that moment where Frenchie reveals that the whole reason he left was because his best friend was dying of a drug overdose. He thought he was going to be able to leave him. He went back to try and save him, did everything he could, left Sherry minding him, and he took another drug overdose later. But that's the whole reason why he didn't catch Lamplighter before he did this atrocity, basically. And Mother's Milk says, why didn't you tell us that? Then you could have been let off the hook. Of course, we completely understand why you did something like that. It's that your friends are important to you. And he said, I didn't want to be let off the hook. And you're instantly going, from Mother's Milk point of view, instantly going, okay, you've obviously, paid enough for what we considered your crime, and Frenchie kind of turns that round later on when Mallory's there with Lamplighter looking to shoot him. Frenchie's saying, you couldn't possibly do anything worse to him than what he's going through now that I understand. What actually was supposed to happen was he was supposed to kill you, not your grandchildren. Yeah. He didn't know that they'd be sleeping in your bed that particular night. He was going there to kill you. Didn't find you, and he's going through all of this pain. So shoot him if you want, but he's going through much more torment than possible. And he says to her, I'm here pleading for his life. Never thought I'd do that, So some great scenes in here with Frenchie. Loved it.
Yeah, and again, it just shows how with a great cast, a great writer, a great director, like you're able to get these story beats that don't in their totality kind of fully move the story. Like it's not a huge epic battle per se, right? But for example, it's not like it's like Stormfront confronting Kimiko, right? It's not it's not to that level, but it's just all these additional kind of details form this final kind of crux where next episode, in theory, Lamplighter's working for the boys.
Working with them,
working with them, sorry. Yeah. Where you then have Starlight, Kimiko, and a suit-powered Lamplighter. Potentially, they're all there. Like, you then have 3 potentially powered individuals to offset the rest of the 7.
Absolutely.
With the rest of the boys. If it came to this kind of confrontation, kind of face to face.
Absolutely, and it's entirely possible there's a few more members of the 7 that would be joining up with them too during this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes,
exactly.
There was a moment where I thought they were going to do some kind of flashback to Lamplighter where he's sort of lighting the Olympic flame, because I feel that that's literally the only thing he could do, but he needs a flame, so if he doesn't have a flame...
Yeah.
I'm imagining Homelander with Ashy, like he was with Blind Spot, going, so what happens if we do this to Lamplighter? And he's kind of like blows out the torch.
Oh no.
I thought the costume looked cool, by the way.
It was cool.
I thought it did look pretty cool.
It was basically the Arrow. The Arrow version, and it's if you saw someone walking down the street dressed like Arrow, you'd kind of go, okay, out in the day dressed in all leather with a hood.
Genuinely, I've been to multiple Comic-Cons, and in real life, that costume looks damn cool.
Okay, that's Comic-Cons or a cosplay event or something. In real life, if a guy was just walking down the street, you'd be like, is there cameras?
Unless I knew he could set me on fire just by blowing out that lamplight, then I certainly wouldn't laugh at him.
To be honest, okay, yes. I think it's more the spandex superhero costumes, because then they're kind of more like Love Sausage, to be honest, really, from Sage Grove. Because, yes, it is very neutral down there otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely.
But speaking of neutrality, John... do you want to tell us what your boys' moment was? Because we definitely got a scene where Switzerland is found, where there is a peace accord.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is the forever lovable, geeky, kooky, nerdy Huey. And I suppose in particular, the two of the people that are really, you know, in his corner, and increasingly so now after they've had their moment with Billy Butcher, but also Starlight. And it's how these two characters connect over the smelling, cauterized, injured body of Huey in hospital. I just really liked it because I liked how Billy Butcher and Starlight, just how they could sort of maintain that tension leading up to it. You know, at one point, I loved that they, you know, made it out for Billy Butcher sort of sighting Starlight in his sniper rifle, which was massive. Oh my goodness. Like,
that's a proper gun.
Well, snipers must have to be hugely strong, because I was just thinking I'd be knackered after 100 meters carrying that on my back. So, or mountains or whatever, I wouldn't make it. But
it's less of a sniper rifle than a rifle with a pole on it that reaches your target so you can shoot them straight in the head.
Yeah, or just a drain pipe with a sight on it or something. It was massive. I really did like how it went from that moment, and you could see Billy Butcher kind of pull back from it. You know, he clips back the safety catch, and just not being helped down from the van, you know, and Starlight and him getting like sort of more and more sort of at one another. But ultimately coming together, bonding, I suppose, if you will, over Huey. Now, Huey is injured in hospital, but how his shampoo and his Axe body spray, the smell of him is kind of drawing them together. You know,
it must smell like Vin Diesel.
Exactly. Must smell like Vin Diesel. And I, you know, kind of that connection coming between Billy Butcher and Starlight. And I thought that was really good because, you know, we've seen him with his wife or ex-wife, Becca, not wanting to take her son Ryan because he's a soup, and maybe, just maybe, he's beginning to mellow out as this toughed up Billy Butcher, and I really like that. I think as well there may have been some bonding as well, not just over Huey, but the fact that Starlight, although it ended in the driver's death, she just did what needed to be done. And in fact, when she says, you know, why did that guy pull a gun on me, when she looked down at the body, that's all she could think of. And it kind of mirrors Billy's also, I suppose, can-do attitude, at least when you're maybe ex-special forces or in that sense. So I think there was, weirdly and unfortunately for the guy whose car they jacked and died as a result of it, a little bit of begrudging respect for her having to do what she needed to do in the situation, even though she didn't intend the death. It was a casualty in a sense of war. So this is my main point, because I think it's really good seeing Billy Butcher's path with all these people. I mean, he is ultimately a bit of a loner, and he's antisocial to the nth degree. But you see his barriers coming down, and it's really nice. And I liked how Starlight and Billy Butcher connected here, and probably because of how lovable Huey is to not only them but also to me, because he's starting to get his support structures around him. You saw him at the start of this season, where he's crying himself to sleep or having to watch those dreadful 80s videos. And it's just like, you know,
listening to Billy,
Huey is gradually getting back to his best, I think. Although he does have half of something stuck in his side. So, I
just love the fact that Huey is collateral damage completely. You've got Billy Butcher, who could pretty much withstand that explosion from the soup, and you've got Starlight there, who could definitely withstand the explosion from the soup. And then you've got poor little Huey turning into a washing machine inside the van, where it's spinning over and over end on end. Like, could you be in a worse place when that hits? Like when that shockwave hits him, you know? But yeah, like, it took me ages to work out while watching the episode. I was trying to work out, why is she telling this guy to get out of the car and not give them a lift? They need to get to the hospital quickly. That's the whole plan here, is to get Huey to the hospital before he dies. Why is she telling him she needs him out of the car? over and over again, I was questioning the whole situation, even to the point where the guy gets shot and killed and is dead on the ground. I'm like, why is she doing it? And then she walks over to the car and gets her powers back to cauterize the wound. I'm like, of course. I would have liked that just a little bit more of explanation beforehand, because I was like, this is really brutal. Leave the guy behind, rob his car, but she needs to use her powers on the car, charge herself up effectively to cauterize the wound, and she couldn't do that because that would have revealed that she is Starlight to this guy. So that was the important part.
Well, that's it. I'm not condoning carjacking or anything like that, but ultimately it wasn't going to end any other way for this guy, because I wouldn't let these two into my car if I saw them on the road with that. You would just immediately call an ambulance or something like that. But
far away in the country, John.
Well, I don't want to say that I would just literally put my foot on the accelerator and drive on by, because, I do feel like I kind of do feel like I'd try and be a good Samaritan.
Yeah.
Which I think he was. And then, okay, well, maybe I would have to do
well, look,
I have to do a phone a friend or something
simple
to
fact
see.
is you wouldn't be carrying a gun, so there wouldn't be
that is true
retaliation.
as well.
So,
that is true.
That's it.
I'm going to just jump in quickly. The bit about this that I actually enjoyed the most was I know in the last episode we discussed kind of the begrudging growth of Billy Butcher, and it kind of, the more I thought back about it over the last couple of days before we recorded this episode, I was kind of like, no, they're really not. They're reverting the character. Like they've shown a small bit of growth with kind of him trying to save Huey. But he's not. He's not growing at the rate of the rest of the characters. Like in terms of character growth and like emotional blah blah blah. And I was like, why? Like, why are they keeping him so stoic? And I was like, this one small piece. And then when we obviously see him at the beginning of this episode when Starlight's brought in, and I'm like, no, he's literally going back to like the only good soup's a dead soup.
Yeah.
I'm like, and he's just singularly focused, collateral damage. They'll go after her first. They're not going to, like, they go after the $1 billion project versus us. And I'm like, really? Like, so they were like, why are they bringing him back to season 1, like episode 1, 2, like that level of despicable kind of character? And then actually they've moved it again because this was, okay, so he now cares about his team again. He cares about having the canary, but he's also this, as you said, this begrudging respect for Starlight. So it really is, Huey is their canary, but he's also their, I don't know, the growth mechanism of the characters or whatever way you want to, like, he's the one that is actually like the boys are centering around and are growing based on.
Always need the glue to hold it together.
He's definitely the glue. I think there is also an element where a lot of what Starlight thinks about Billy Butcher is being projected by her onto him. It's not to say that he's not anti-soup. It's not to say that he's not or can't, or can be vile and unthoughtful and all this kind of stuff. But there's a few occasions where he says, "Your words, not mine." So I think as well with Billy Butcher, there's a lot of projection from Starlight onto him.
Like, even if he has changed, the last time they met back in season 1, he said he would kill her the next time they spoke, kind of thing, So she absolutely is not letting him grow if he has grown. She's not letting him have a conversation where he's going, "Oh, I apologize now. I found out my wife's son is a soup, so I've changed, so we are seeing it through his eyes." And also that would be really quick for the audience to be able to accept a really soft Billy who's not going to kill soups. That is his whole purpose of the show as well. So, but yeah, it is nice to see these two kind of come together in this episode, definitely. I also noticed there was a little relationship budding, at least between Billy and Kimiko as well. They sitting down, eating dinner, watching telly together as well in this episode. So that's another soup that he's joining back up with. And that's my protagonist moment from the episode is just about Kimiko. I love how she proves herself to Lamplighter. Lamplighter's kind of going, "I can kill all of you in a room." He comes in with Mother's Milk and with Frenchie and Kimiko there. He says, "I'll burn you all." And Mother's Milk turns it on him and goes, "Well, she's a soup. You can kill the two of us, but you'll just piss her off." And he isn't going to accept it. Lamplighter is still going to kill them until another escaped soup comes in to attack with his acid reflux, as I'm going to call it, as he spits onto Lamplighter's side. But Kimiko moves into action so fast. She's so cool. Pushes him on his back, kicks him in his stomach, so he spits up some of the acid into his own face, killing him. Absolutely favorite soup takedown that we've seen so far.
Yes,
loved it.
That was so melty. Just seeing the face go. I was calling him Puke Boy, but
I think acid reflux would work so much better, wouldn't it?
or you could just call him Rene.
Rennie, John. Rennie.
I know, but I'm keeping the French theme from the first point.
Excellent.
I appreciate that a lot.
Excellent. That was my soup kill of the week. If this was Zombieland.
Oh my god! Can you imagine? That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Like what Huey's rules and soup kill of the week.
There you go.
That'd be pretty good.
That is it. That was my protagonist moment. I just wanted to talk quickly about that moment with Kimiko. But since you didn't mention completely that conversation between Kimiko and Frenchie at the end of the episode, I do think that, speaking of character growth, we see the whole history of Frenchie throughout this episode, and his moment where he realizes after episode after episode of him trying to save her, the moment that he realizes that she's not there to be saved. She never once asked him to be the one to save her. He realizes he can just be there for her as a friend. I think is a great moment between these two characters as well. And it seems to have resolved their relationship as we get into the last two episodes.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like that. If anything, that would kind of is how I would almost see as kind of growth of Kimiko as well. Because she's accepting his acceptance. Mm-hmm. If you like, for the whole episode, she just has this sly look on her.
Oh, yeah.
Just like everything he says, like pointing he's like, you get in the trolley, and she's like, no, you get in the trolley.
Absolutely.
Even though if an orderly came up, she can't speak, and kind of like, where are you going? Just stares blankly back.
I think just the assumption from him that it would be Kimiko to get into the trolley was just like, not a chance, mate. Yeah. Which I love. And I also remember the first thing that she said to her was, oh, have you done killing people? Are you back joining us? Have you done assassinating people for money? So yeah, their relationship wasn't good at the beginning of this episode, definitely.
I'll very quickly just call out her choice of accessories when they're going into the hospital. Mm-hmm. The knuckle duster. Yeah. It's like, so that's what you're going to wear? Inconspicuous, is it? That's what you spent your money on.
I like it. Nobody's going to believe you're a nurse with that knuckle duster.
Absolutely. And she does give it a good old blow and rub just to rub it in.
Absolutely.
And you get the nice kind of like punch mark of it.
Mm-hmm. You do?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's get on to our 7 moments, guys. I think we're done with our boys' moments. Lots to talk about there in the boys' side of the camp. What's happening over on the antagonist side? Chris, another start for you?
Yeah. Let's light a lamp to light our way into the boys. Very quickly, we've already briefly discussed it in our Frenchie backstory. Mm-hmm. It was just the revelation of what he was doing, why he was placed in this mental asylum, that they were testing the Compound V on adults. So way back in season 1, I even mentioned it, that the Compound V was given to adults, and it was used by adults to give them superpowers as well.
Including the boys.
Including the boys. They would take Compound V to go mano a mano with other soups. So it was interesting to see that they have discussed this. Like, this is now coming into TV canon, that the Compound V is trying to be perfected for adult use, and maintained, kind of powers from this. So great to see that. But also we get the history of why Lamplighter killed Mallory's grandkids, why he left the 7, from not the shame, it's actually, he left the 7 because, he felt the shame of killing the kids, why he waited and stared at the kids burning. Mm-hmm. He was in shock that he had just killed 2 innocents.
Exactly.
And then, I won't dive much more into it, but it's just, he was turning on the 7. We don't know what exactly the guys had on him to turn him in that scene where he becomes the informant, that he placed the bugs for Billy and the rest of them. We don't know what that one moment or that piece is. But we do know that so essentially that he had turned, he was being jailed by Frenchie.
Yeah.
He basically went out of his own way, not on the behest of Homelander. He went on his own way to kill Mallory because he knew Mallory was in charge. Killed the kids, left in disgrace, and then went to work in this. I keep calling it Shady Acres. It was like Sage Grove. It's like Shady Acres. Sage Grove.
Yeah. So what do we know about the character from before? And I just want to make sure that I remember Lamplighter from before. So Lamplighter was the original Soup that left the Seven under mysterious circumstances back in season 1, and that his job effectively went to Starlight. They said that Lamplighter had gone on a mission abroad, wasn't it? Something like that. Did they say he was dead? I think they did.
Nope.
I thought they said that he was lost in action. No, they didn't have a funeral for him, so no. So he wasn't dead.
That was translucent.
That was translucent at the end of the season, that's right. We knew that he'd killed Mallory's grandkids. We knew that that's why she'd retired after that happened to them. And that was the reason the boys broke up, effectively, was the impact that had happened to Mallory. Nobody else was willing to bear it from what Lamplighter did. So what we now see in this episode, and absolutely everything that you've spoken about is most of what happened. But the one other thing that we see in here is that he's been working for Stormfront. And likely for the entire time he's known who she is. She seems to be fully in control of who he is. We heard a little bit about the connection between Stormfront and Stan Edgar a bit more clearly in this episode. We saw that all of the emails that were going back between Stormfront about Sage Grove were to Stan Edgar, and there were direct connections between the two of them about all the experiments going on there. Her saying that she's very close to what's happening here, and that Lamplighter has been used to destroy the evidence or to burn up the evidence of any of this work. So it looks like Sage Grove itself is Stan Edgar's facility being run by Stormfront, and they're using him as their slave effectively to take care of any evidence that could get out into the public. So that's my kind of read of what's happened to him since he was dropped from the Seven. Yeah,
so he went on a secret mission, and he just he's still on a secret mission according to the public. He's still working for Vought. He's working directly for Edgar. He reports to or is subservient to Stormfront. At that point when she comes in, we just think that she is kind of his manager, if you will, as a Soup. We'll learn more later. But essentially, that's pretty much it. He's there to destroy evidence and maintain the secrecy of what's going on.
Excellent.
One bit we do not know is why does Edgar know why he left, why he wanted to leave the Seven? Because it's specifically called out by Frenchie and Mother's Milk. Lamplighter never told Homelander. Like, he never told the rest of the Seven about the Mallory incident or turning tail or anything like that. So has he told Edgar, or has he gone, I'm out, I want out, and he goes, I don't care where you just put me away, I want to pay for my whatever sins, and they put him into Shady Acres. I keep calling it Shady Acres in my head now, and forever. When I say Shady Acres, listeners, I mean Sage Grove. But so there's still a bit of missing evidence there.
Yeah, definitely.
That may be dropped, or we may find out more in the next two.
Yeah, I'd say we'll find out more, because I do wonder how much he knows about the relationship between Stan Edgar and Stormfront, how much he knows about their relationship more than anything else, because how much more useful will he be to the boys if he actually is sharing information about the two of them with the boys, which I think is much more likely that they're going to explore that history there, so that we can find out that he is a real inside man on their relationship, as opposed to all the stuff outside of the Seven that the boys don't know about with Vought. He could be the way in on that. So
cool. Definitely.
Cool.
Okay, so let's wrap up and snuff out the light. That is Lamplighter's point. Let's move it over to John. What's your Seven moment?
Yeah, it's the pitch from Stormfront, effectively, to Homelander. It's kind of like, well, we knew potentially something like this was coming, but I like how she just tells him everything, and I like how it connects in with their romance, really. And certainly given how charred that sort of dozen red roses became. You've just got this feeling, I think, always with Homelander, that he's going to kill, he's going to hit, and so on. And what with him getting slightly upset that she had lied to him because she'd gone off to Sage Grove when she said she was having a meeting with her people in Vought Tower, to this moment where she is saying, I will tell you everything. I will have no more secrets, and goes through her backstory. She shows him the Liberty costume there. There's a dagger as well in that chest, and there's something that, I don't know, it feels like it's some kind of army dagger or something, because it's got an insignia on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an SS officer's dagger.
Okay, I thought it was. I just didn't catch the lightning strikes, the double lightning strikes of the SS symbol, but the red on that knife looked sort of familiar, I think, there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an SS dagger. It was an officer's dagger history nerd sometimes. Around this thing. The officers of the SS, particularly the kind of the elite officers, were given these kind of SS daggers.
Interesting.
And the only reason I caught it is later she talks about Goebbels, and she calls out the other main well-known kind of the Himmlers in that photo where she's showing herself. They all are in their dress uniform. Yeah. And have the daggers, and it's the SS dagger.
Right. Interesting. Very
Yeah, no, it was all kind of laid bare by Stormfront here. And we get the revelation, I suppose, that she was the first person to have been given Compound V, and becomes whatever she became before Liberty. We see her daughter, who has died before her as well in the picture.
Yeah, we were guessing, was it her mother? And then we went, was it her sister? We didn't go as far as daughter, but that makes her so much older, really, doesn't it? Yeah.
We were thinking 70, and then we find it's 100.
It's 100.
No, slightly more. She said she was born in 1912.
She was born in 1919, so she's 100. Because the show took place in 2019, first season of the show, and we're only about 2 or 3 months after, actually less than 3 months after the first season. So we're still in 2019 now, according to the show. So she's 100 years old.
No, let's call it 100 and some change then, right? Maybe 101.
There you go.
Well, I wonder if she'll be getting a telegram from the Queen, but
probably not.
No, not certainly with her associations. Yeah, she lists everything. You see the photo of her with the Nazis, her daughter, and we see the picture of Frederick Vought as well.
The most important guy in the room. I love that she didn't call out Hitler there. She called out Frederick Vought instead.
Yeah.
Well, I thought she was talking about Hitler there, and then, it was Frederick Vought. But they fell in love. He gave her a successful treatment of Compound V, and then, but I suppose the real pitch here from Stormfront to Homelander is effectively bringing him into her worldview. This idea that Vaught's true destiny is not in cuddly toys. It is in the culture war, and winning that culture war against other races, as she says, that are grinding us down. She goes to Homelander. She pitches Homelander is the person to lead the army of supers against the others in this culture war. And again, it's just the presence of Anthony Starr with the menace of Homelander, and whether, as with this instance, is he going to snap her neck or kiss her? I really, really don't know. Is this the moment where we learn truly that Homelander maybe has some kind of baseline moral, even though he has pretty much shown any absence of that previously. And he goes in for the kiss here. And it's just the interesting thing with Homelander. He is so fluid in his morality that I kind of thought, oh my goodness, there we go. He's signed up with a kiss on Stormfront. But then because he's been such a horn dog all the way through the episode, I was just thinking, has that just kind of gone and washed right over him and he doesn't care whatsoever because all he wants to do is kiss her? But I know that's not the case. But it's just that forever fluctuation between my mind as what is this guy really about, other than truth, liberty, and the American dream, which of course is about to be trashed with his sort of hookup with Stormfront, and I suspect him buying totally into her pitch of fronting the culture war, white supremacy, and all of this. And I was like, damn.
Yeah. I loved how they don't specifically call out the Aryan master race, or they don't use those terms, but oh my god, it's all in there, like white supremacy. It's everything that the Nazism, the ideologies of Hitler's Mein Kampf, which was the main Nazi ideologies twisted and perverted around the Aryan race, which is the blonde-haired, blue eyes, kind of master race who would inherit the earth above all others.
Homelander, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then what she's talking about is, the next step of this, which was Frederick Vaught's dream, was the Aryan race would be superheroes. Yeah. They would be superpowered individuals to control the rest of to control the other races in this culture war, as they specifically keep calling it. Just did not. I know when Frederick Vought was brought up in episode 2, we were like, this is going to be important. They're doing this for a reason. Yeah. They're going to give us more history on Vought. They're going to tell us why. And we talked about Project Paperclip. We talked about everything. We talked through, it's like, oh, well, if they're going to do this, maybe they're going to breathe more life. And I loved this quote unquote reveal. We knew she was Liberty. The fact we had queries around, okay, maybe it was maybe she was 70, maybe we were trying to figure out how it was all connected. The fact that it's like, yeah, no, she's a Nazi. Vought was founded by Nazis. And potentially this is their, although I don't think Edgar can be really in this, because
it doesn't feel like it. No, not at all.
If anything, Edgar's specifically reporting to maybe Stormfront. If you think this company was founded by Frederick Vought and his wife.
But then it really depends on what is the culture war that she speaks about, because just what she did in the tenement block, what she has done with A-Train. Yeah. Yep. So I can't imagine.
She's a murdering evil racist.
No, I know she is, but so that's why I don't feel she is working with Edgar. I think she's working with him to the extent that Vought wants this to happen, to have a stabilized Compound V, but it's to her ends, not necessarily Edgar's.
Absolutely. And I think the suggestion that we had last week was that potentially everybody in Vought works for her because she's been around longer than Vought has.
Yes.
So she effectively is running the company, whether she's using a pseudonym, whether she's covering it up in a different way. Everybody is working for her, whether they know it or not, is the way I see it. And I believe the plan all along now after this revelation was the plan is to get Homelander on their side because he is the realization of Frederick's dream. He is exactly the Superman, the Aryan Superman they've always wanted to create it from the beginning with all of their tests, all their experiments. He has been created, but he's been used by Vought as the leader of the Seven, now putting her in the same room and her convincing him he is now a member of their side of things, of their culture war, as they're calling it. And it literally, the cogs slipped into place as she said it. And I was looking at Homelander's face and seeing the blonde hair, blue eyes, and going, "Oh, of course, that's who she's talking about." And that's what it was for me when she was saying her speech and going through everything they believe in the Nazi system, I suppose, all the way through, going, "Oh, she's going to get to the point where she's going, and you are the product of all of our dreams. I love you more than I could possibly love anybody else," I think she says to him. So it seems like the realization of everything. So this was all staged effectively to get her and Homelander connected. So
I couldn't have put it better when you said the kind of everything clicked into place. For me, it was like that Rube Goldberg machine, just kind of like everything was perfectly set up. And this is one of the reasons I love Eric Kripke and the rest of this writers' room. They have perfectly set up the stage and then basically clicked everything. We didn't know everything this ball was going. We were along for the journey, and finally at the end it hits the last domino and it actually spelled out the plot. I'm like,
of course, we should have recognized that.
Ubermenschen, like the super race. I was like, oh my god, it all just, like you said, it literally just went.
Exactly.
Just classic.
Excellent.
Obviously not their plan. Just the
of course, yes.
Just in case anyone was listening and misinterprets.
Absolutely. John, anything else on Homelander and
no, I think that's the whole thing.
Grant, on the antagonist side, the only other thing that I want to talk about here was just Maeve's mission is now fully clear. She sent the Deep off to speak to his ocean friends and find some footage possibly of the plane crash from season 1, which I love has come back as a really important piece of the plan here for Maeve, because it did seem to affect her quite significantly in season 1, and the season ended without any kind of resolution to what happened on that plane, with Homelander killing everybody on board and then pretending it was something else, and taking credit for going out and saving them. This was what started them on the point of potentially, if they were part of the army, they could stop any kind of terrorist attacks happening in the future. So the fact that the Deep has found footage of that speech that he gave and then left everybody behind to die, and gave it to Maeve so that she can now use it to possibly free herself is, I think, going to become important as the last 2 episodes play out. I don't know how important it's going to be, because the threat of it, I completely understand. Right now, she has a GoPro that the Deep didn't think would even work, and she hasn't taken the footage off the GoPro, so I hold in my hand this piece of plastic that's very easily meltable, which has footage of you on a plane telling people things. Probably not the best plan when someone has laser eyes. But I'm hoping that she'll make multiple copies and have them ready to go to CNN, because she does say she's going to send it to CNN if he doesn't let them go.
Yeah, I did kind of feel that she had left an option off when she was speaking with Eleanor, which is basically that Homelander just kills the both of them. I'm not entirely sure even what she's looking to do is enough of a threat, to be honest. I think he would just kill her, probably go to CNN and kill them. And who knows now with the pact between him and Stormfront, if that affects Stormfront's plan, which it would do because it will bring down Homelander, then I just don't see him caring enough, because actually what Stormfront has weirdly done in some respect is free him of the corporate restraint that he always had. You know, like, you think back to the last episode where his view was, I just want to laser these people. He knows that's not going to be good for his popularity. And maybe, just maybe, Stormfront is elevating his views beyond that to something more cultural, as she says. So it just feels like Maeve, I think, is in real trouble.
Yeah, she may have missed her opportunity, you know, and the way she's probably thinking about it is the exponential reaction of the public. You know, what was seen from that phone cam footage was that he killed one other person. There was one person in that village that he killed by not watching his place when he killed the terrorist that was there. And here it's showing that he killed an entire plane full of people. 200 something odd people died in that plane crash that he let fall out of the sky. So potentially she's just thinking and connecting the dots and going, if that got a rally of a couple of hundred people outside Vought, can you imagine what this would get? But she absolutely, obviously doesn't know the other story that's going on here.
Yeah, and also I think it impacts Maeve. And I just wondered whether we were going to see Eleanor say, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Because, yes, we get the explanation from Maeve. She was scared. She tried to save some people, but not all. But ultimately, it's both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be the key, the outcome, conclusion in the next episode, which is, like, I think Alan is going to leave. And then Homelander's going to enact revenge anyway. It's kind of like, hey, she was complicit. Maeve was complicit. Even though, like, we get that emotional scene where she's kind of like, I had to go along. We know she was complicit in this, and I think Alan is looking like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Any other moments from the episode that you guys want to talk about after we've talked about our protagonist and antagonist moments? Chris, anything from you?
I'm just going to talk about the Big D moment, the Big D energy. Oh my god, I love the boys. I love this show. Like, it was just hilarious.
So good.
And it was like, it wasn't gratuitous. It wasn't in your face. It was in Mother's Milk face, but it wasn't gratuitous.
Certainly was.
It was just very well done. But then they hinted at it earlier in the episode, and then again, like later on, you have Frenchie, like when Mother's Milk is on the phone to Butcher, going, "Did you tell him about it? Did you?"
Yeah, awesome, just so good.
They played on it well. Like, it wasn't just a kind of slapstick moment. It was, but at the same time, it played into the rest of the story. Anyway. Just wanted to call out
absolutely
Big D energy for the boys.
Yeah, so let's call it out. The character is named Love Sausage in the credits for the episode as well.
Awesome.
Just to reference Mother's Milk's comment when he sees him on the CCTV footage. There is another moment where he appears in the episode as well, just in case you missed it, when they're looking at all of the attacks across all of the screens. You see somebody being dragged across a floor by what looks like a tentacle. We know by the end of the episode, it's not a tentacle.
Yeah, it was just hilarious.
It really isn't a tentacle.
That was my other outstanding moment.
Excellent. John, you have another outstanding moment in the episode as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, Chris took that one, so that is definitely up there. It is also, crushed head, crotch rubbing, and alley sex, Homelander and Stormfront, with this whirlwind romance, spicing it up as only kind of a splash of blood can. It was just, oh my goodness, what a great opening as they carry on their little dalliance and fighting crime at the same time. It was just, as they're kissing and beginning to hook up in the doorway in the alley with the blood all over their face, and just the pan back where the criminal is kind of just had his head sort of pressed against the wall. So there's just this sort of cavernous skull area, and the two of them going at it in the alleyway. So there's not really a lot more you can say, really. Stormfront certainly knows how to rub Homelander up the right way.
Well, exactly. Like, it is interesting here. Homelander is leaning into the Joker argument, really, isn't he? So you have the Batman argument where he will arrest criminals over and over and over again, put them in Arkham, and if they get out, they get out. He'll just arrest them again and put them back in. That's his method. He won't kill, effectively. And the Joker push to Batman has always been, well, kill me. Just kill me, because I'm going to get back out. So here we have Homelander and Stormfront, where Stormfront's effectively saying that to Homelander. They're going to get out of prison if you put them in, so why not just kill them now? And Homelander goes, okay then, and crushes his skull.
Exactly.
Yeah. But remember, one of the things that we haven't really just referenced in this episode with Homelander and with Stormfront, this is his first girlfriend. He's kind of going through his teenage obsession phase with the girlfriend, you know? The previous relationships that he's had haven't exactly been, real at all, obviously. You know, with Becca, he had no relationship there. He has a son with her. With Madeline Stillwell, he has an obsession with her breast milk, but he has no relationship there either. So this is his first girlfriend. So the only person that's ever really returned the attention to him. So he is totally obsessed. Did anybody notice how pitiful that moment was with Stormfront, where he goes, come inside my caravan for just a minute. I've got something special inside for you. This is one of the richest men in the world, it seems. And he buys her a bunch of flowers inside with a little card saying, thank you for the nice day, Homelander. And that's the special thing she's supposed to be getting as a big surprise for her inside. He's basically a 15-year-old, you know, who's obsessed with his first girlfriend.
I'm not going to get you flowers anytime soon. In fairness to him, it was a dozen red roses, which I suspect some people might find romantic.
I don't think Stormfront...
It wasn't a PlayStation 4 that you got, or new PlayStation 5. I get it, but oh well. Romance is dead, boys and girls.
I was more underlining the fact that this is one of the richest people on the planet. He is the leader of the Seven. He can get whatever he wants, and he chooses to get red roses for someone that I don't think red roses would go down well with. It's like he read the pamphlet of how to deal with your first girlfriend, and when she doesn't turn up after 20 minutes of being away, remember, he blows up his own trailer and sets it on fire because he's having a tantrum.
No, I get that. He's definitely childlike and childish for sure. He's not developed socially. I get that. I think the thing I was thinking more of was, and it was kind of a bit when Stormfront does his pitch, was like, is he going to kill her because he's just realized he's been banging a 101-year-old? Or something like that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the thing that was just like, oh no, we've just learned that she's 101 as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But you
have to see.
Absolutely. But John, you are welcome to buy me red roses anytime. I'll always accept them.
No, I wouldn't do that though. So there we go.
See, very nice.
Just buy him a PS5.
There you go. Yeah. My last one that I want to talk about just is the Deep and A-Train. Because we didn't really talk about it in the episode, and the fact that the Deep is now carrying Fresca in his bag to encourage people to join the Church of the Collective is quite funny. We also have another fall from A-Train where he's getting his superhero song sung by sung really badly by as a demo. I love Ashley's reaction. You referenced it earlier on to the song going, isn't it late, A-Train? As if she needs to speak with the cool kids kind of thing. And as we mentioned, he responds with the yes, it's so dope, Ashley, isn't it? Like she's some kind of MTV presenter from the 90s. Very funny scenes. But I suppose we get the kind of reveal that A-Train isn't going to be allowed to go out to pasture by the Seven and go on with his career the way that it was kind of set up by PR for him. He was told he'd be able to go on the talk show circuit, all that kind of stuff. Not only has he been replaced in the Seven, also his outfit is going to be moved on to the new A-Train. Yeah. The title will be taken as well. Everything. The whole persona that he's been building up for years is just going to be handed off to somebody else, and he will have absolutely nothing. There is no way Vought are going to allow him to go on the talk show circuit as somebody else saying, I used to be A-Train and they took everything from me. There's just no way that that's going to happen. So this is how the Church of the Collective are getting under the skin of A-Train and trying to get him involved in their organization as well. I just thought it was a really different side of what we thought was going to happen to A-Train. Things were going bad for him, but they're going worse now.
Definitely.
And now we have the Deep being used to get A-Train on board.
I do like it's a subtle nod or jab at the Flash and how the Flash's moniker has been given to multiple people. Mm-hmm. So, like, Barry Allen was replaced by Wally West, who was replaced by Barry Allen, who was replaced by... Like, the Flash is always the Flash, but it's just by different people. So I just thought that was... Yeah, it was a nice jab. Yeah. Especially as a speedster.
Yeah, it just seems like one of those things, doesn't it, that they could possibly replace it. But I love that they know so much about him as well in this group. I love that they know that he is 6 figures in debt here. He has no possibility of paying off that debt now because they're taking away all the things that could possibly allow him to, with taking away his moniker, with taking away his suit, everything be passed on to the new guy. He's out and done, basically. So again, their sell to him is, if he allows Deep tell him his truths about A-Train, then they may be able to get him back into the 7 in future. So we're kind of in another interesting situation with those two on the outs, particularly annoyed at getting thrown out by Vought and by Homelander. We have Maeve over on the other side with her situation with the video, and we have all of the other soups joining up, it seems, with the boys. It's definitely going for collision course right now.
Yeah, I do like, and I'm hoping they do revert to and tell us why and how Stormfront was part of, or remember she'd say, and it was kind of a toss away line, but so far we've learned there's not many toss away lines with Stormfront. She was part of the collective but left because they started allowing people of ill repute. I can't remember the exact phrase she uses, essentially talking about non-Caucasians. But yeah, I'd be interested to see if that surfaces again.
Yeah, whether she told Stan to get rid of him and Stan passed it down to Homelander or something like that. Yeah, that'd be quite interesting as well, wouldn't it? Have to call out Enya's Orinoco Flow playing in the Church of the Collective as they walk in. Probably one of the best selling songs of all time, but known as being completely anodyne because nobody can understand the words of it. So I know, not particularly an Enya fan. I know they're massive in the US. Actually, her band, original band, Clannad, used to live next door to my grandmother. So
there you go.
Her family were in Clannad.
Indeed.
So
they're kind of famous.
So yeah, they're very famous. They did the theme tune to Robin Hood in the 80s. So as we all know from Ireland. But anyway, there's the connection there. Any other last notes from the episode that we haven't talked about?
Nothing from my side. I have Chris's Corners coming up.
That's true. Couple from me then. The Bloody Doors Off. The episode title is taken from Michael Caine's infamous line, well, if you've seen the film anyway, from Italian Job. One of his teammates blows up a car and the response comes from Michael Caine going, "You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off."
I will like that line in the correct accent, please, because I cannot be the only one who does the terrible accents. Come on, Darick, you could do it. You are only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
I usually just put your voice through a filter so it goes back to your Irish accent after.
There you go.
But the name The Bloody Doors Off is also the name of the 12th volume of collected comics from the boys. And you guys may or may not know this. In the comic books, Billy Butcher is described as a Michael Caine type character. He's supposed to have the voice of Michael Caine in the comic books.
Yes.
So, and that was what the actor who plays him in the recent audio drama, that's the voice that he puts on as a Michael Caine accent as well. So lots of little references in there to Michael Caine. I don't think anybody mentioned, for some reason throughout the episode, I was expecting somebody to mention that this episode felt like an X-Men breakout, right? The whole everything in the scene seemed to be like the stuff that we'd see in X-Men more than any of the other superhero shows that we've talked about, or more than any of the episodes of The Boys that we talked about anyway. My last note is just about Cindy, this uber powerful soup that's been tested upon, that's been attacked by everybody, that seems quite reasonable when she's talking to the boys, but very angry when she's talking to Lamplighter, and very angry when she's attacked by Stormfront. Stormfront puts her down at the end of the episode. She uses her powers, knocks her to the floor, and then kind of leaves Lamplighter to take care of the place as she goes off again.
Yeah.
And then we see at the end of the episode, Cindy's free and walking away. So we know that Lamplighter has joined with the boys and left, but nobody took care of Cindy. She seems massively powerful. Nobody is there left to take care of her.
I just kind of assumed that Stormfront had killed her because she'd said, I just killed or mopped up 6 outside. It's like a teddy bear's picnic out there as she comes in. And I just kind of assumed that was code for, well, I've killed them.
Right.
Because no evidence.
Yeah.
So I assumed she was going around cleaning up.
You can't kill the product.
They can if you don't want them to be found out.
In the world. True. I will very quickly call out, we now know who killed Raynor based on the power set. Or the assumption is based on the power set Cindy was used to kill Raynor. because her head's exploded.
Yes,
we never knew
yes,
who
that's
exactly killed Rayner from so far away.
Yeah.
It looks. I would based on the power set, you're gonna kind of maybe Stormfront was the one.
Good call, I reckon.
Took Cindy there and goes kill that person.
Yeah, good call.
That's a really good call. Yeah, no. It's amazing special effect. And the first time it happens, I love that the boys are watching on as she takes out one of the guards, and then they just boot it out of there, as we'd say. They leg it down the aisles to get the hell out of the area that she's looking on.
Definitely. Well, it's like, and Frenchie, Kimiko, and Mother's Milk, when they do go inside initially, before Lamplighter really kind of explains it fully, they think that Vought, this is the super terrorist farm, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I know we were thinking it was a super terrorist previously that had killed Rayner. Yeah. So, I reckon that's... Well, let's see. But she is out in this world, and certainly I wouldn't like to be the guy or girl that's given her a lift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. It does raise the question how many more are out there as well in the next episode.
Absolutely.
Because if one's free, maybe more have got out. Because we do see that the guy who flipped the car with Huey in it, he'd gotten pretty far out. He got past the gates.
That's true, yeah.
So there's probably a fair more older soups out there with powers now.
Luckily, Billy was there to put him down, so he's gone. Chris, let's go on over to your corner. What have you got for us this week?
So I thought I'd very quickly just give the history of Lamplighter from the comic books perspective. It is quite similar, but there's a few tweaks and changes, so I just wanted to call it out because it is fun to kind of see what they changed, what they didn't. So in the comics, he is a member of the Seven, where in the comic books, he was actually kind of given freely up to the boys by the Seven after he killed Mallory's granddaughters. Mm-hmm. So the whole premise is that back in the day, similar to what happened, he goes off when the boys started originally going after the Seven before Huey, before Starlight. Basically, the Seven and the boys are butting heads, and Lamplighter goes, well, why are we being the good guys? Like, I'm just going to end this. And he goes off to kill Mallory and kills kind of Mallory's daughter, granddaughter, or grandchildren, and everything. Mm-hmm. And this is seen as an act of like crazy aggression by the boys, who start kind of overreacting. And on top of one of New York bridges, essentially the Seven go, this is getting out of control now. Lamplighter killed the kids, take him.
Right.
So he is then killed by the boys.
Right.
The boys literally beat him to death.
By the boys, not the Seven. The boys.
The boys kill Lamplighter and like literally beat him to death. Okay. He's then reanimated because the boys have this whole thing that Compound V can reanimate corpses. Okay. And it's a whole jab at like superheroes constantly coming back, but you come back pretty much brain dead. Right. Like you're just a mess, and he's hidden from kind of view from the rest of the public eye, because he kind of like drools and like constantly soils himself and can barely string sentences together. So he's reanimated, he's put on show, and he's essentially kind of shown that he's he's still alive, he's there, and that it's his retirement, he's leaving. Cause he's basically, it's the rest of the Seven have to constantly take turns kind of cleaning out his cell, like looking after him in kind of the Seven Tower. And Homelander kind of keeps him there in Vought Tower as an example to all the rest of the team of what happens when you kind of underestimate Butcher and the boys. Right. It was really interesting. Like, it's like, it doesn't come out to really long, like really late in the game, like the 60s kind of in the issues. Okay. But it does also, like, the whole thing was he was the informant for the CIA and for the boys. He was the informant back there as well, to a degree. Right. But yeah, overall, they're very close, but like slightly different that he was given up as collateral damage from the Seven side.
Yeah. And he purposely killed her family as well, which is the big...
Yeah, his whole thing was he had enough of being scared of Butcher and the boys, so he he followed them and took it to Mallory.
Excellent.
And he was like, I'm going to end this and destroy them, which just like amped it up. And the whole bit about that came down to mutually assured destruction. So it's like, yeah, you're going to take one of ours, we're going to take one of yours, and this is just going to end badly.
Yeah.
And so essentially Homelander goes, no, you take Lamplighter, and then this is quits. This is the end of it.
Yeah.
He killed one of yours, or one of yours family. We're giving him over to you as a sign of peace.
Excellent.
An olive branch.
Excellent.
Cool.
There you go. So that is Chris's Corner.
Yeah.
Again, fellow listeners, let us know if there's anything you'd like to know. I'll get into that later.
Yeah, I really like the reanimation of the corpse side of things. I thought that's nice.
Yeah, it's a fun jab at like heroes always coming back. It's the whole thing that V brings you back, but you're just brain dead and you're still in a suit, but you swallow yourself, you're drooling, you can't talk, you're like the zombified, reanimated, dead.
Very cool. That's it for our discussion about episode 6 of The Boys, season 2. That's the right way around. John, overall, what's your rating for the episode?
I really loved this episode. I give it 4.5 love sausages in a loony bin out of 5. I just, really brought a lot of stuff into sharp focus. What with the origin of Stormfront being older than we thought, and her kind of pitch to Homelander, but even just the whole escapades at Sage Grove were really, really good, and getting the Lamplighter there, and seeing Frenchie's backstory throughout this was so good. And what with the alley scenes with Homelander and Stormfront, or with the skin scarf around Mother's Milk's neck during the breakout of some of the inmates there at Sage Grove. It was just, there was some really good The Boys moments as well, I think, in this episode. So really great episode from my side.
Yeah, really, really good. Chris, anything to add?
No, that it was perfectly encapsulated by John there.
Excellent. Feeling a bit thirsty, boys. Let's get on over to the pub for the pub quiz. John, what's this week's question?
Yes.
Welcome to the pub quiz, fellow boys and girls and pub quizzers. Yes, question 6 is Huey related. What shampoo does little old lovable Huey use? What shampoo does little lovable Huey use?
Excellent. On his head as well.
Yes, and this is as close I could get to a drink as well.
Okay. I like it. The full name of the shampoo that Huey uses. All
absolutely. The full name, the full details.
Love it.
I'm going to send in your answers to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com, and you'll be in a chance to win some The Boys goodies at the end of this season. So please keep those questions coming in.
Absolutely. Do you know what else you can send to the feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com?
Feedback?
Yep, feedback. Let's get on to our feedback section. First up, I got an email from Jimmy Uren on last week's episode. He said, just when I thought this show could not get any crazier, we now have superhero sex. I had been wondering if I'd ever seen anything like this before on screen when you mentioned Luke and Jessica Jones on the show. But even that was street-level superheroes with super strength. This was a whole new can of worms. That ending made me forget a lot of the rest of the episode details, but one thing that did stick was a character with an even worse accent than Billy Butcher, his Aunt Judy, who sounded at one point like she just walked off the set of Neighbours. One interesting point I did find was that her real name was Barbara Gordon. I wonder if she goes by Babs. Though she has no other IMDb credits at all, which is unusual. Action aside, she was a lot of fun, and I wonder if she'll be back, as hopefully will Terror, the dog. I wonder if Aunt Judy, the actress who played her, is actually from Neighbours. I noticed in the credits that a lot of this show was filmed in Australia, so maybe she did have a starring role in Australia. Oh, sorry, in Neighbours.
Yeah, maybe it's Helen Daniels.
No, definitely would have recognised Helen Daniels.
Or Madge.
I'd also recognise Madge even after all of these years.
Maybe they're in disguise.
Well, I think a lot of information from the episode, just like Jimmy, has been wiped from my mind with the sex scene at the end of it. Jimmy continues with, this episode also contains some of the funniest swearing I've heard on TV, which of course I can't repeat here, but included multiple references to Billy's C-Sense and Tara's special toy. As for the violence, that face rip from the female actually made me turn away from the TV. Ouch. On to predictions. I think there could, or maybe should be, a sort of mutual enemy, Defenders-style team-up with Starlight, convincing Maeve, Deep, and A-Train to join the female and the rest of the boys against Homelander and Stormfront. They would still be losing until Noir is ordered to help them by Vought and turns the tides. Very interesting.
Yeah, that is a nice little idea, actually, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's close to what I think is going to happen. The one question I have is, season 3 has been confirmed. It's coming at some point in the future, whenever people can go back to film. How do they do that if everybody turns from the 7 over onto the side of the boys? But I just don't know how it's going to end. You know, they've made us wait week to week, which I absolutely love for this season. Maybe it'll just be a massive cliffhanger with the standoff at the end of the season. You know, maybe that's the way they'll do it and lead it into the next season. But interesting predictions.
Yes, definitely. I do think what we're going to end up is a smaller conclusion, but like the majority of that standoff will happen in season 3.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
But good prediction, yeah.
Excellent. Finally, Jimmy asked a question for you, Chris. Said, a quick question for Chris's Corner. Is Lenny a comic book character? And if so, what is the story there?
Thank you, Jimmy, for the question, and welcome to Chris's Corner, your particular one. Yes, in the comics, Lenny is the younger brother of Billy Butcher. And actually, while Billy takes after his father in terms of kind of looking like he was beaten by, although Carl Urban is quite good looking, Billy Butcher in comics is not. But Lenny takes after their mother and is a lot more calm and stuff. He's one of the few people like Huey who can essentially kind of calm down Butcher and kind of curb his violent kind of tendencies. For example, when Billy and Lenny's father beats and kind of caves in, really badly beats their mother, Billy goes after his father and is literally like seconds away from murdering him. Yeah. And Lenny stops him. That's kind of there. Like, he's able to calm Billy down and stop him taking to that edge. He's the canary, if you will. But when Billy goes off to join the Marines, Lenny goes to college, and while Billy is away, Lenny dies pretty soon after. When Billy joins the Marines, he's hit by a bus, and Billy has to come back and finds out quite later. And he's always held that over not held over himself. He's always blamed himself for not being there for protecting Lenny, even though it was a hit and run. It was a tragic roadside accident versus anything else. It's something that stays with me. Yeah. So yes, thank you for that.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that, Jimmy. And thanks so much for the feedback. And thanks, Chris, for an extended edition of Chris's Corner.
No problem. Thank you very much. We also got some feedback over on Facebook from Dr. Bob Phillips, who had this to say. Another fast-moving marvel of telly. Delighted with it again. My bits to pick at are numerous, but if the top 3 have to stand first, my boys' moment is, didn't I tell you Butcher was just a misunderstood puppy? He returns for terror and loves Huey like his lost sibling. But I only just like this above Auntie Joanne the pharmacist. My soup moment, they had me with the mass murder. Completely believed they'd gone there. Pipped the farewell of A-Train, the juice bar racism, the destruction fun time, and the Messiah as the dark ringtone. My outstanding moment, the destructive Butcher as his melodic metal gig.
Yes, that battle at the metal concert was pretty badass from Butcher.
Yeah. He goes for the biggest, tallest guy in the room and just keeps wailing. Dr. Bob goes on to say, my notes, Mother's Milk and Outlander. Of course he'll be a fan of the most romantic sci-fi historical on the planet. And the episode, the quite perfect call-out of bi-erasure going on, and the ongoing exploration of all sexual experiences with S&M and sex dolls, admittedly for a bulldog, and massage parlors getting covered this week. Nice catches there. Touch Bob. Yeah, totally agree with you. I actually had a really good discussion on Twitter the other day about that experience of bio-erasure in the episode, this way the PR people are talking to Maeve and Elena in the episode. And it really is that experience that we were talking about, this is something that clearly goes on backstage at almost every single TV show that's been on television for the last 15 years. Don't make it too complicated. Middle America doesn't like that. Let's make sure that even though we're talking and inclusive of LGBT plus people, that we're talking to straight white people and we're explaining them the way straight white people want to have them explained to them, because you don't really want to open their eyes to these things. You just want to say you're including them because you're including them. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Dr. Bob went on to ask a question. Chris Jones, what was the Russian movie posters in Kimiko's Killer Cafe, and any meaning or subtle comic backstory? Good question. I went back, rewatched the scene. As far as I can see, they're just kind of ad posters. There's definitely one with Queen Maeve selling Russian vodka.
Interesting.
So yeah, that was a good one. But as far as I can see, there was nothing really. It looked like Queen Maeve, unless it's a Russian soup for Vought. But we'll if you find any more, let me know. But definitely not a big one. Thank you so much for that feedback. We also got feedback from Donald Dennis over on Facebook, who says, I'm still not certain Stan Edgar is powerless. Maybe he just doesn't have a big physical power, but instead has a don't murder me field or something. Also, Terror, that dog does not look 8 years old, but his girlfriend is hilarious.
Excellent, Donald. I like that. The don't murder me field around Stan Edgar. That's quite interesting. That's entirely possible. You never know.
Yeah. He too could be one of Vought's early experiments.
Maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe.
Yeah. Thanks, Donald, for that. And also as well to Bob and Jimmy from myself. Salim Akizla said, what the F did I just watch? Overall, this was mostly a setup episode, but some great stuff nonetheless. Love seeing Terror, meeting Billy's aunt, and hearing more about his family. I'm picturing Lenny as comics Huey. Also, Kimiko taking Underworld contracts was a nice nod to the comics. The sequel to Dawn of the Seven may be Civil War. Maeve appears to be leading an insurrection. No shortage of disgruntled team members now with A-Train denied his chance back in. Maybe she'll join up with Starlight and the boys. I was wondering how in the hell Vought was going to come back from Homelander commuting genocide, so it makes sense that was just fantasy. Later I thought Billy was going to see a vision of Black Noir killing all of his friends, but they didn't go back to that well. Yeah, thanks, Salim. Certainly there is a move here that Maeve, along with A-Train, Starlight, The Deep, maybe even Lamplighter and the boys are going to be the rebellion here. So looking forward to that for sure. That was good to see. I didn't like Kimiko taking out contracts as well. That was a nice little nod to the comics. So yeah, no, thanks, Salim.
Yes, thank you, Salim. And yeah, I do. When they talk about Lenny, in my head, I can see what you mean about the comics version of Huey, which is the Simon Pegg looking Scottish wee Huey.
He's even more nervous though in the comics, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or maybe they just play it off for a lot longer. Maybe
maybe. We also got some feedback from Chris Aggie. He shared some feedback about our episode 5 podcast. Great discussion. Thank you. I think this is currently my least favorite episode of this season, which isn't saying much, only that other episodes were more outstanding, because I really don't dig these setup episodes very much, especially when it feels like a gazillion storylines and you constantly jump between them. That said, there were so many great moments in the separate storylines I really liked and enjoyed, so that my criticism really is mostly nitpicking. He also had some speculation for episode 6. He says, so what are the chances that we'll get a Homelander I am your mother line in the next Boys episode. Interesting stuff.
No.
I wonder if we may have kind of gotten that a little bit in this episode with Stormfront. Yeah. Although it is a bit more like a, hey, I'm your grandmother line, I suppose, more than anything else. But certainly, she was at least a metaphorical mother, of the Vought family. She was the original Compound V soup, I suppose. So I wonder if it's more like that.
Yeah, I'm really hoping there's no I am your mother moment. Do you remember how many of our listeners had problems with the two unrelated siblings in Umbrella Academy having an attraction for each other? If she was literally saying I am your mother to Homelander, I know he has some major issues, but that might be the thing that truly breaks him. Well, if he was a test tube child created from her, I don't know. I don't know whether he'd be able to do it.
I know it wasn't a mother, but Star Wars did it.
Again, slightly
brother, sister.
Slightly different. That was just a peck on the cheek.
Maybe.
Okay, I am so delighted, Chris, that you sent that into us. It's something I never wanted to speculate on from the episodes. The possibility that it could be his actual mother. I think spiritual mother or creator or metaphorical. Yeah, possibly that's what that's where it would go. I'm hoping the show doesn't go into actual biological mother. That would not be cool. Thanks so much for that, Chris. Final piece of feedback comes in once again from the awesome Steve Brown.
Hey guys, this is Steve. This is for The Boys, episode 5. We gotta go now. Like another musical reference there, I think. But love the quick line at the very beginning, the whole Joss rewrite thing, because, he was known for rewriting screenplays and things like that for a long time. And then Greg Grunberg showing up there in the movie within the TV show was another great love Greg Grunberg and everything I've seen him in. Okay, so for my boys moment, it was definitely Kimiko for me, because, she took that guy's face off, took his face off. There's been so many references to the movie Face Off in the last couple weeks that I just thought that was kind of a cool little coincidence. But that whole conversation in the church where the closed captioning showed us what she was saying, but of course Frenchie doesn't know what she's going through, was kind of difficult, and you see him just kind of walk away from her. For my 7 moment, it's hard to pick just one, but I was fooled, man. When that whole thing when Homelander mowed down that crowd, I thought, oh man, he's lost it. But no, of course, it was just in his head. So I thought that was that kind of caught me. But the big moment, I don't know which is bigger, the reveal that Billy Butcher has a brother and the similarities to Huey and their relationship, or if that disturbing sex scene between Stormfront and Homelander was more disturbing. So can't wait to hear your guys' take on this one. And there is no comparison. I don't think there's any way you can compare The Boys with Lovecraft Country. There's no, I can't find a through line to correct it, to connect it, unless you go with the racism of Stormfront. All right. Talk to you later.
That's about it, I think, Steve. Yeah, I think that's about the only thing connects. Although we did notice one this episode where we find out that A-Train's from the south side of Chicago, and a lot of Lovecraft Country is set in the south side of Chicago as well. So we're building them up. Maybe by the end of both seasons, we'll have a few things that connect.
Although it will still be very tenuous.
It will be very, very tenuous. Yeah. Thanks so much for the feedback, Steve. Very good to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, for that. Yes, I kind of didn't really think that it was a revelation, but it is really. I think Steve was right. That Billy's brother, Lenny, looked like Huey.
Yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it? It's like, at least reminds, maybe the twitchy nature of Huey reminds his aunt of Billy's younger brother. Yeah, I know what you mean. That maybe I think for me, I was saying last episode, it seems like a revelation that he has any family, let alone a big, broad family with lots of other relatives. For me, maybe that was my. Maybe I'm kind of with Steve in it feeling like a big revelation. I know he also mentioned Greg Grunberg being in the Dawn of the Seven movie. Greg Grunberg is the guy who's used by J.J. Abrams in lots of his movies. I think he was in Heroes, and then he moved on and was in, you'll see him as a background actor in Star Wars as one of the X-Wing pilots. You'll see him in loads of other movies that are out there, all connected to J.J. Abrams. So I like seeing him in the background here as well. It's quite cool.
100%. Yeah. And thank you, Steve, for all the feedback, and agreed, as you heard, face off, face off, face off. We're great minds think alike.
Excellent. Thanks so much for all the feedback this week. Keep sending it in to us as we get through the last 2 episodes of the show. Next week, we're back with the penultimate episode of The Boys, Season 2, Episode 7, Butcher Baker, Candlestick Maker.
Thank you so much, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe over at tvpodcastindustries.com on all good or evil Vought affiliated or Boys affiliated podcast catchers. You can write a review over on Apple Podcasts or any other good podcast feed where you can write in reviews. Don't forget to share the love by sharing the podcast. You can also support us over on patreon.com/tvpodcastindustry, where just $1 helps these lights stay on. The podcast mics still running and powered. Any support is great. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Speak to you very soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. I did mean to mention that we are now available on Amazon Music Podcasts. All of our podcasts from TV Podcast Industries are now available over on Amazon, just like they are on Google, just like they are on all the Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So another place where you can get all of your TV Podcast Industries goodness, including the Boys podcast from TV Podcast Industries and Lovecraft Country, the dreadful podcast from TV Podcast Industries.
Yes.
All available over there. So just thought I'd mention it.
Does that make would Amazon be the Vought affiliated podcast catcher?
Possibly. I thought that was Google.
I think they all are, to be honest.
I think they all are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
If you want The Boys affiliated podcast catcher, I think a more sort of bespoke, like Audio Guru or Beyond Pod, they're the small good ones.
Yes. The Android ones. Anyway,
Yes.
just thought I'd mention it. John, do you want to close this out?
Yeah, thanks, fellow boys and girls, for joining us. Remember, never go off into shark-infested waters without some chum. But remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep lighting. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.